The woman across from me, a vision in brunette with a welcoming smile, expertly shuffled the cards, her gaze holding mine captive. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, I managed to smile, the dim, cramped room doing little to hide my discomfort. I'd barely settled into my seat when I felt her attention lock onto me the moment I entered. "Mustafa," I offered, nodding at the other figures around the table. We were 5 in total, including the card-shuffling beauty. Glancing around, I searched for a familiar face, someone from past games, but none emerged except the man who'd invited me. Seated next to me, his smile, veiled by tinted glasses that hid his eyes, spoke volumes. "We were fresh meat, Mustafa," the woman repeated, her voice like honey. "Such a lovely name." "I'm Ria. The others will introduce themselves soon enough." A sheepish grin escaped me as I flicked a glance back at Tamer, bathed in brighter light on a nearby couch. He chatted with a group I presumed were the other players' companions. Double thumbs up and a wide smile later, my attention returned to the table. "Familiar with the rules, then?" Ria inquired. I met her gaze. "Kamara." It wasn't a stranger. Years ago, during a citywide blackout, my friendly doorman had introduced me to the game while stranded in the dimly lit lobby. 13 flights, a daunting climb. Cairo's power outages, a post-revolution norm, meant these electricity breaks were an unwelcome daily visitor. That night, after a marathon work session sprung on me by my manager, I'd considered staying put in my car. But the doorman's beckoning hand, a deck of cards extended, and the promise of a new game had lured me in. Card games were my weakness, a past campus gambling reprimand a testament to that. Ria's sly wink confirmed it. "Single queens are house rule," she announced. "Wouldn't have it any other way." I countered, the amusement in my voice drawing a sharp bark of laughter from glasses. Chimera felt like a familiar friend poker, but with a twist. Unlike the high-stakes games I bluffed my way through in high school, here, a single queen reigned supreme. It was a trump card, an instant win regardless of your opponent's hand. The game became a dance of veiled truths and calculated risks, a territory where I thrived. "Let the games begin." Ria purred, and time melted away. I became a hawk, dissecting every flicker of emotion on my opponent's faces. The early rounds saw 2 players fold with disgruntled huffs, retreating to the couches like wounded soldiers. Soon, only 3 of us remained. Glass's smile had vanished, replaced by a grimace. It was clear he was itching to see me falter. The thought of getting under his skin fueled my amusement. "Lucky, perhaps." He spat, his voice laced with frustration. Ria, however, hummed a different tune. Her gaze had been glued to me throughout the game, a predator assessing her prey. Every bluff, every bet, every fold, she devoured it all. I reveled in the challenge of keeping her guessing. Impatience crackled in the air. "Just deal the cards." Glasses spat, venom dripping from his words. Ria, unfazed, winked at me again. Her nimble fingers danced as she shuffled, then dealt the cards. A thrill shot through me as I saw the queen nestled among my hand. Maintaining a poker face, I met Ria's gaze. Her enigmatic smile sent shivers down my spine, especially since her cards remained frustratingly hidden. The game commenced with a hostile bet from Glasses. We both upped the ante, the tension thickening with each passing round. This charade dragged on for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Glasses exploded, slamming his cards down and lurching towards Ria. "Cheating whore!" he roared, his face contorted in fury. 2 burly men materialized from the shadows, restraining him before he could reach her. Ria, unperturbed, continued shuffling, her gaze fixed on me. "That's hardly polite behavior for a guest," she said coolly. "Screw him," Glasses bellowed. "And you too, Ria." She turned to him, a mask of serenity settling on her face. It was a chilling display of control. "Are you forfeiting the game?" she inquired, her voice a silken threat. "You bet your ass I am," Glasses snarled, shrugging off the guards and scooping up his remaining chips. He tossed a handful at my pile with a sneer. "Enjoy your new plaything," he spat before storming out. My gaze followed him, then flicked to Tamer, the sole remaining observer. He shrugged helplessly, bewilderment etched on his face. As I turned back, Rhea winked again, the deck blurring in her nimble hands. "Still in the game, then?" she inquired, her tone flat. "Absolutely," I replied, trying to mask a flicker of unease. "Excellent," she cooed, a touch too sweetly. It'd be a shame to lose a promising player so soon. I watched, mesmerized, as she shuffled. Glass's accusations echoed in my mind, fueled by the way she kept her cards hidden. 5 cards materialized on the table, and Rhea leaned closer as I picked them up. "An enigma," she purred, her gaze lingering on my hand. A royal flush stared back, sending a jolt through me. "Just keeping you guessing," I countered, the unease morphing into suspicion. Why hadn't she touched her cards? Was Glasses onto something? "Discomforting you, am I?" she challenged, a knowing glint in her eyes. "Not at all," I lied through gritted teeth, a forced smile plastered on my face. "Just new to this whole intensity." Rhea's smile widened, the cards briefly flickering into view before disappearing again. An eyebrow arched as she pushed the opening bet forward. I met her challenge with a call, raising the stakes. "No swapping for me," I declared, confidence lacing my voice despite the churning unease in my gut. Rhea simply nodded, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. With practiced ease, she discarded all 5 cards, her eyes flitting briefly towards the replacements dealt face down. Then, with a calculated push, she sent a hefty stack of chips towards the center of the table. "Let's raise the stakes, shall we?" she purred, her voice dripping with honeyed menace. My gaze flickered between the chips and my own meager pile. "I'll call and raise you all in," I bluffed, channeling the bravado I'd honed in countless card games. Rhea's smile widened, revealing a hint of something predatory beneath the veneer. "Oh, but this isn't about money, my dear Mustafa." Her voice dropped to a husky whisper, sending shivers down my spine. "This hand is for something far more valuable. Your name." Confusion clouded my features. My name. The very idea struck a discordant note. What use could she possibly have for something so simple? "Oh, it is, sweetheart," Rhea purred, her smile laced with a hint of something dangerous. "More valuable than you can imagine." Defeat gnawed at me, but I forced a smile. My royal flush lay face up on the table, trumped by the single queen mockingly staring back from Rhea's hand. With a sigh, I leaned back, the weight of the situation settling heavily on me. "Entertaining," Rhea remarked coolly as her guards swept away our chips with practiced efficiency. "You could have taken more money," I offered quietly, more bewildered by her strange request than upset by the loss. "Trust me," she replied, her eyes locking with mine. "I took far more than you realize." Her enigmatic smile sent a shiver down my spine, a premonition of something far more unsettling than a simple card game. The insistent pounding on my door shattered the remnants of sleep. Bleary-eyed, I fumbled for my phone, cursing under my breath at the ungodly hour. The hammering continued until I flung open the door, only to find Samir, my ever-present doorman, standing there. "What in the world?" I growled, barely containing the urge to snap at the man. "Apologies for the early wake-up call, Mr. Mustafa," he began. "But is Mr. Mustafa at home?" My scowl deepened, suspicion prickling at my skin. "I am Mustafa," I gritted out. "What's going on, Samir?" "Ah, no, I meant the other Mr. Mustafa," Samir replied, his tone unervingly calm. "Are you losing it?"
I snapped, frustration bubbling over.
Samir shook his head, his face hardening with sudden offense. "Absolutely not, sir," Would you please let Mr. Mustafa know his car is double parked, and the woman downstairs can't get out? I am Mustafa, damn it. I roared, my patience at an end. I'll be down there in a second. Slamming the door shut behind me, I stormed back to my room, the bizarre turn of events leaving a cold dread in its wake. What did Ria mean by her cryptic words? And who was this other Mr. Mustafa who suddenly seemed to exist? The day unraveled like a cheap sweater. I dodged Samir, my mind racing for an apology that wouldn't ignite a firestorm of questions. My errands became an obstacle course of hostility. The corner kiosk owner, usually a fountain of chatter, pretended not to recognize me, shoving my cigarettes across the counter without a glance. The bakery owner, the butcher at the market, all greeted me with the same icy indifference. Even Mrs. Patel, my ever-chatty neighbor, retreated into a stony silence during our elevator ride, forcing an agonizing ascent in air thick with unspoken judgment. The world, it seemed, had conspired against me. Calls to my parents went unanswered. My sister hung up the moment she heard my voice. Work emails bounced back, both professional and personal. Slamming my laptop shut in frustration, I dialed Tamer. Hello? His voice, thick with sleep, offered a lifeline in the sea of strangeness. The day continued its downward spiral. Envy gnawed at me as I envisioned Tamer, blissfully unconscious in dreamland. Reaching for my phone, I dialed his number, picturing a groggy response I could exploit for a good-natured morning jab. Hello? His voice, thick with sleep, offered a momentary comfort in the growing chaos. About time, sleepyhead. I chuckled.
Ma'am, I am Gianus.
Listen, I'm having trouble logging into my work email. Any idea what might be going on? Silence. A heavy, unsettling silence that stretched on for an eternity. Tamer, you still there? I prodded, a sliver of unease creeping into my voice. Who is this? The voice, devoid of recognition, sent a jolt through me. Check your caller ID, Tamer. It's Mustafa. I pressed, frustration lacing my tone. Look, I really need access to that email for work. Can you check your system or something? Another agonizing silence. Then, a chilling question. Mustafa who? My breath hitched. What do you mean, Mustafa who? The only friend you've ever had. The guy you're going to owe big time if you don't wake up and help a brother out. A beat of tense silence, then a harsh reply. Screw you, he spat, followed by the sickening click of a disconnected call. Dumbfounded, I stared at my phone, the image of Tamer's friendly face replaced by a sickening void. My finger hovered over the redial button, but doubt held me back. Surely this was some bizarre dream, a cruel trick of the sleep-deprived mind. Tamer would call back any minute, apologize profusely, and we'd laugh it off over coffee. Minutes bled into an eternity. Reason urged me to call again, logic screaming that something was terribly wrong. But a sliver of hope, as fragile as a spider's web, held me back. Tamer would wake up. He would realize his mistake. Just a little more time. Tossing the phone onto the couch, I started unpacking groceries, the mundane task offering a sliver of normalcy in the growing storm of confusion. The game with Ria, the strange encounters throughout the day, sleep hadn't erased the disquiet. It had merely buried it, a simmering pot threatening to boil over. Logic offered no answers, and my mind, a frantic hamster on a wheel, produced nothing but dead ends. There had to be someone who knew something, someone who could explain the tightening knot of dread in my stomach, the chilling premonition that things were about to get much worse. A glimmer of hope flickered in my mind. Glass's card. Maybe he knew something about Ria, about this whole bizarre situation. Abandoning the groceries, I lunged for the coffee table, yanking open my wallet. Frantically, I flipped through the worn leather, searching for the business card Tamer had procured. Then I saw it, or rather, the absence of it. Where the card should have been, a gaping hole mocked me. Panic clawed at my throat. I dumped the entire contents of the wallet onto the table, the mundane plastic rectangles a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. Methodically, I laid out my credit cards, driver's license, and ID, a cold dread pooling in my gut. Each card was the same, a hollow shell. My name, once embossed in bold lettering, had vanished, replaced by a chilling emptiness. My breath hitched. My ID, a ghostly replica, stared back with the image of the Sphinx mocking my predicament. Even the colorful credit cards, once markers of my identity, were now nameless plastic. The truth slammed into me with the force of a speeding train. Ria hadn't taken money. She had taken something far more valuable. My identity, the very essence of who I was. The air grew thin, and a primal fear coiled in my stomach. I sank to the ground, the room tilting around me. Gasping for breath, I fought the rising tide of panic, the horrifying realization threatening to drown me whole. She had taken my name, and in doing so, stolen a part of me I wasn't sure I could get back. The harsh metallic clang of a closing gate echoed through the cluttered store. Ignoring the proclamation of "We're closed," scrawled across the filthy window, I pushed open the door, a faint jingle announcing my arrival. Dim light struggled to penetrate the chaos within, revealing a labyrinth of towering cardboard boxes. A gruff voice boomed from the depths of the store. "Didn't you see the sign? We're closed. I need your help," I called back, my voice echoing off the stacked boxes. A shuffling sound approached, followed by a figure emerging from the shadows. Glasses, his face obscured by mirrored sunglasses, squinted at me. Recognition flickered in his eyes, quickly replaced by a sigh and a muttered, "What the hell are you doing here? So, you do remember me?" I pressed, a sliver of hope clinging to his words. He snorted, pushing his glasses further up his nose. "It's been, what, a day, kid? Of course I remember." His voice trailed off as he lowered his gaze, inspecting a nearby box. Then, his head snapped up, his voice dropping to a tense whisper. "You stupid, stupid boy." Ignoring the insult, I pleaded, "I need your help." Glasses' posture shifted, a predatory gleam flickering in his eyes. "You sure do," he sneered. "Bet you lost something valuable, didn't you? Are you crazy? Do you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into?" "No, I don't," I admitted, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. "That's why I came here." He grabbed my arm with surprising strength, shoving me towards the door. "Leave, now. You can't be here. If she finds out you're talking to another no-name." His voice trailed off, a mixture of fear and something else I couldn't decipher flashing across his face. "Another what?" I demanded, but Glasses slammed the door shut before I could get an answer, leaving me alone on the desolate street. My anger flared. I yanked my arm free, shoving him back with enough force to send him stumbling. Balling my fists, I met his gaze, voice laced with barely controlled fury. "Listen here, Glasses. You dragged me into this mess. Remember? You brought me to that cursed game. And I swear on everything, if you don't help me right now, I'll unleash every ounce of rage and confusion I've felt since this morning on you and this whole damn store." Glasses held my gaze for a long, tense moment. Then, with a sigh that spoke volumes, he reached up and began wiping his glasses on his dirty shirt. He examined the lenses in the dim light, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face before he finally pushed them back on. "I suppose it was only a matter of time," he muttered, his voice low and grim. Glasses led the way, his gaze fixed firmly on the ground. We'd caught the last train out, a desperate escape fueled by the bombshell revelations he dropped over 4 torturous hours of tea and hookah smoke. Information I'd craved, information I now wished I'd never learned. The complex of religions, usually teeming with guards, was eerily deserted. We slipped past them like phantoms, their obliviousness adding a layer of unreality to the situation. The hanging church, A place I'd visited countless times before, now loomed with a dark purpose. I remembered marveling at the ancient Roman fortress preserved beneath it, visible through glass floors. Never, in the throngs of tourists, had I considered what might lie even deeper. Glasses entered the church, the guard barely affording us a glance before looking away. A knowing look, or so I suspected. Appreciating the church's nocturnal beauty for a fleeting moment, I quickly refocused on the mission at hand. This wasn't a tourist visit. This was a descent into the unknown, a desperate gamble for a chance to reclaim my stolen identity. The church's cavernous nave swallowed us whole. We hurried past pews and pulpit, the rhythmic creak of floorboards the only sound in the oppressive silence. Glasses veered right, pushing open an unmarked door that led into a cramped, windowless room. More pews lined the space, their uniformity broken only by a solitary figure hunched over at the far end. He sat with his back to us, an unsettling stillness emanating from his form. Glasses stopped, a tense silence hanging heavy in the air. Finally, he cleared his throat. "We need to see her," he rasped, the words grating against the silence. A gruff voice, rough as sandpaper, echoed from the figure. "Not possible. Let her decide." Glasses countered, his voice tight with barely suppressed urgency. "Just announce us." The figure shifted, a slow, deliberate movement that sent shivers down my spine. The ensuing silence stretched on, more unnerving than any outburst. When the figure finally turned, his scarred face was etched with a mix of annoyance and something deeper, something I couldn't decipher. He rose stiffly and lumbered towards the wall, his hand settling on a seemingly unremarkable spot. The stones groaned in protest as they shifted, revealing a hidden staircase that plunged into darkness. "This is a transgression," the man grumbled as we stepped past him, the weight of his words heavy with unspoken threats. We descended into the inky abyss, the promise of answers hanging heavy in the stale air. "No worries, big guy," Glasses tossed over his shoulder, a hollow reassurance that echoed emptily in the vast space. I followed him down the damp, winding staircase, my clammy hands clinging to the rough stone walls. Each misstep earned a withering glare from Glasses, a stark contrast to his earlier bravado. Despite the danger, a sliver of gratitude flickered within me. He was taking a colossal risk by bringing me here, and the grim set of his jaw betrayed his own fear. The stairs finally deposited us into a narrow corridor, which opened into a breathtaking chamber. The ancient gate passage stretched before us, illuminated only by slivers of light filtering down through the distant church floor. Awe momentarily banished my fear as I gazed upon the timeless space. Glasses nudged me back to reality. At the far end, bathed in an ethereal glow, sat Rhea. She was half hidden in the shadows, a figure of unsettling power hunched over a table eerily similar to the one from the night before. A twisted smile played on her lips, radiating a chilling welcome. The rhythmic snap of cards filled the silence as she shuffled the deck. "Philip," her voice echoed through the cavernous space. "This is an unexpected return. One would think you, of all people, would understand the consequences." Glasses, the braggart from before, was now a pale imitation. Sweat beaded on his forehead, betraying his anxiety. "The boy wants another chance," he stammered. "The boy has nothing to offer me," Rhea countered, her voice dripping with disdain. Unable to bear it any longer, I cut in. "I have my name," I blurted out, my voice echoing in the vast hall. "I want to play for it." Rhea leaned closer, the faint light revealing an unsettling glint in her eyes. "You misunderstand, Mustafa. Your name already belongs to me." "Then you don't have everything?" I pressed on, a desperate hope flickering within me. "My birth name,
Ibrahim."
that's what I offer. Think it might complete your collection." A slow, predatory smile spread across her face, sending shivers down my spine. "Indeed, Mustafa, You are even more intriguing than I first thought. The familiar weight of a royal flush settled in my hand, a bitter echo of the previous night. A cold dread coiled in my stomach. Was I falling into the same trap twice? Glass's warning about Ria's cheating echoed in my mind, but he'd also assured me this location was safe. Yet, her smile remained an unreadable mask, a facade I couldn't penetrate. Doubt gnawed at me. Had I made a terrible mistake venturing here? Luck, a fickle friend at best, had deserted me before. But hope, a fragile ember, flickered within. Taking a deep breath, I surrendered to the gamble, requesting 3 new cards. Ria dealt them with practiced swiftness, her lips curving into a cryptic smile. "Certain of your choice?" she purred, her voice laced with an unsettling undercurrent. Ignoring the question, I stared at the fresh cards, face down, a gamble on fate. Glasses, a reflection of my own turmoil, offered no solace with his sweat-drenched face. Steeling myself, I pushed the cards forward. "Show me your hand," I rasped. "Don't you wish to see yours first?" Ria countered, her voice a silken thread. "No matter," I gritted out. The stakes remained the same, a coin toss between triumph and oblivion. This time, however, the choice was mine. Victory or defeat hinged on the cards she held, and for the first time, a glimmer of control flickered in the oppressive darkness. Ria's smile widened into a gloating smirk as she revealed a full house, mocking my earlier fortune. Despair clawed at my throat, a sickening echo of the previous night. With a heavy heart, I reached for the new cards, each one a potential lifeline. As I turned them over, a flicker of hope ignited in my chest. Relief washed over me with the tide of a winning hand. I slammed the queen down, the trump card, and watched Ria's smile falter for the first time. "Looks like the boys got some luck after all," Glasses muttered, exhaling a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Tension visibly loosened his shoulders, a glimmer of his bravado returning. "Indeed," Ria conceded, her voice laced with a hint of begrudging acceptance. "Your name will be returned." But the victory tasted hollow. "No," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Ria's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, no?" she hissed, the facade of amusement crumbling. "I never said I wanted my name back." "Then what do you want?" A slow smile crept across my face. "Yours." Ria's smile reappeared, but it lacked its earlier warmth. "An exotic name," she purred, seemingly unfazed. "I understand the appeal." "I don't want Ria," I clarified, shaking my head. "I want your real name." The playful mask vanished entirely, replaced by a flicker of something akin to fear. Her gaze darted towards Glasses, a silent accusation flashing in her eyes. "So I hear you have an unofficial name yourself." I smirked, the knowledge a weapon in my hand. Ria's jaw clenched, her expression hardening into a snarl. "Tell me your name. Don't push your luck, boy," she hissed, a tremor in her voice betraying her earlier confidence. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Ignoring her threat, I met her gaze, my voice unwavering. "Tell me your name." A low rumble echoed from the depths of the chamber. The ground trembled slightly, a tremor growing stronger with each passing moment. "Change your request," Ria ordered, a flicker of desperation replacing her earlier arrogance. "Tell me your name," I roared, my voice fueled by a newfound determination. The earth shook violently, debris rained down from the ceiling, and Glasses scrambled back, searching for an escape route. I clung to the table, the world around me blurring with the intensity of the tremors. "Tell me your name." Ria lunged, her face contorting into a monstrous snarl. Her fingers, like gnarled claws, reached for me, but before they could connect, an unseen force yanked her back, a strangled scream ripping from her throat. "You maggot!" she shrieked, her voice cracking with rage. "You dare ask for my name? You are nothing. Dust. I will crush you. Tell me your name." The tremors intensified, threatening to bring the entire structure down. Rocks tumbled from the walls, and the earth groaned in protest. "I am beyond you, mortal," Rhea screamed. "How dare you defy me? Tell me your name." A deafening scream filled the chamber, echoing off the walls and vibrating in my bones. Grotesque cracks snaked across Rhea's face, revealing glimpses of something horrifying beneath. A primal fear threatened to consume me, but I held my ground. I am, she stammered, her voice cracking. "I am." With a final, earth-shattering roar, the facade shattered completely. Rhea's body contorted, morphing into a grotesque amalgamation of flesh and bone. A name, raw and ancient, ripped from her mangled form, echoing through the collapsing chamber. The world dissolved into chaos. The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was the monstrous entity that had been Rhea dissolving into a million pieces. The night had been a masterclass in controlled chaos. The air hung thick with the stench of defeat, a perfume my fellow players wore with varying degrees of grace. All except him. The man across the table remained a cipher, his face an unreadable mask. My chips, a glistening monument to misfortune turned fortune, taunted him from their pile. I fanned my hand out, a slow, deliberate movement. Feeling lucky, he met my gaze, a flicker of something deep, maybe defiance, maybe fear crossing his eyes. Not particularly. Then let's change the stakes. I purred, a predator savoring its prey. I shoved all my chips forward with a flourish. Double or nothing. But this time, the wager isn't money. He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity breaking through his stoicism. What then? My smile widened, a slow, unsettling thing. Your name, on the table. Winner takes all.